today's topic is transformations, and we're going to be learning a lot of new vocabulary. We're going to be talking about rigid motion in a plane. And what this talks about is figures that can be reflected, rotated, or translated to produce new figures. And we're going to define those words, reflection, rotation, and translation, in just a moment. A preimage is the original figure. The image is the new figure that's created after we use a reflection, rotation, or translation. A transformation is the operation that maps or moves the preimage to create your new images. Your transformation is your reflection, rotation, or translation. And you'll see what those are in just a moment. Don't worry about that at all. Keep these vocabulary words somewhere nearby so you can look at them. An isometry, or a rigid transformation. Images, in an isometry, images are congruent to the preimage. The movement preserves lengths, angles, parallel lines, and distances between points. Let's see how this works. Different types of transformations. A translation. A translation occurs when you slide the preimage. So for instance, you've heard us use that word. Here is your preimage. Here is your original figure. And you slide it in some direction, and it ends up in this new spot. This is your new figure or your image. This is your result after you slide it. Notice, this is an isometry. This is a rigid transformation, which we listed right up here, because the image and the preimage are congruent. They're the same size and shape. Let's move on to the next page. A reflection occurs when you flip the preimage over a line. In other words, it's like looking in a mirror. Think of this as a mirror line. And notice we have just flipped the preimage, which is right here, the one on the left, and we've gotten our new figure, the image, on the right. Again, this also is an isometry because the preimage and the image are congruent. Next, we have a rotation. Now, a rotation occurs when you turn the preimage around a point. So, for instance, here's my point. I hope you can see it. And all I've done is just rotate this preimage around the point. This is where I've started. Here's my preimage. And here is where I've stopped, where my new image is. Again, this rotation is an isometry because the preimage is congruent to the image. It's the same size and shape. Now, sometimes we have transformations that are not isometries. Now what happens here, in a non-rigid transformation, the size or shape of the images change. So for instance, in this case, you notice the shape begins, we slide it over, and as we slide it, it shrinks. It's just drawn to a smaller scale. So this is what we call a non-rigid transformation. The size or the shape of the images change. They could get larger as well. Okay, but that's what we call a non-rigid transformation. It is not an isometry. So that is it today. A lot of new vocabulary. Study these particular figures, and we'll be using this in class. Thank you very much for joining me.